Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. My name is Casey Cheshire, and I'm your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by who? Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help you maximize your use of Pardot and Salesforce. And today's guest is wearing a lab coat. I love it. He is a conversion optimization evangelist. We're talking all about testing, all about figuring out what the numbers actually mean, actually making sure they mean something. He is the founder, managing partner of Conversion Sciences. He is the conversion scientist, ladies and gents, speaker and author. Brian Massey, how are you, sir?
I'm glad to be here. Wow.
Yes, I know. Only the best. So we got our coffee and we're ready to rock here. And what we were talking about earlier was there's a theme. Oh, and it's even in a beaker. I love this. So the theme is all about testing. It's all about marketing testing. And, you know, we've done some surveys and we have our roadmap. We have a CSI where we ask people where they're at with different things in marketing automation. Most people aren't testing. And if anything, maybe they did a quick little subject line test once upon a time in their marketing automation system or in Pardot or something. But really, people are really busy. Maybe they don't see the value of it. So you're here and we're going to be smashing myths. So I just want to pass you Thor's hammer and want to know, what do you want to smash right away? What kind of bogus strategy do you see out there? Maybe some misconceptions about testing and marketing optimization, conversion optimization. What do you want to smash?
You know, I think that there's a lot of myths to smash, but I think they kind of fall under one big umbrella, and that is that data is going to put me into a little bucket. The data is going to limit me. The data is going to take time. But what we find out is that data is like a safety net. So
interesting.
Let's think about a time. I know we've all been through this because it happens to me all the time. You have a great idea on Friday. You think, wow, this could really revolutionize our email campaign, or this could really change the way we're presenting our products on our page, or those would make amazing ads. You noodle on it all weekend. Yep. You think about all the things you could do. Then you go on Monday and you go, you know what? There's no way I could sell that. There's no way I could sell this. It's too risky. It's too creative. That's why we got into marketing. Right. So this myth that data puts you in a box is actually, it's the opposite. Because if you have a few of these skills for collecting data around your ideas, you can find out if it's really as crazy as you think it is, or maybe it will be as revolutionary as you imagined it. So we tend to spend our time testing the wrong things. How many times do we start a conversion optimization program changing the button color on a landing page? I hear this all the time. Yeah. And it's easy to do. And people think there's going to be some magic that happens, but we kind of already know the answer to the question.
What is the answer? Save thousands of people from testing this color thing. I've done it.
The perfect color in almost every situation is any color that's not in the palette of the rest of the page. Make that button pop. That's all you need to do. If you've got a red and black page, you want a green button. If you've got a blue and brown page, you want an orange button or a green button. That's what you need to know.
Simple. So just not in the palette.
Yeah.
Now,
well, and the problem is that the designers want it to match. They like things that match. They don't like to clash.
So you make it some like crazy purplish thing that you've never seen ever in the rest of your page.
It doesn't have to be crazy, but especially on a landing page, you've got to let the visitor know that you're asking them to make a decision, right? Yeah. And that's the way you do it.
So stop testing buttons, right? So this has been done. Do something else. So where do we go then if we're not doing the silly subject or the button color or the header?
Yeah. So our process is to not let go of anything until we've found some data that says that's not a good idea. And testing is just one way of collecting data. So we start all of our engagements with what we call the ROI prioritized hypothesis list. Now, this is proof that we're not a branding company.
Do you turn that into an acronym, or is that just
No, it doesn't spell anything.
Do you say it like 9 times in a meeting? Well, this is the prioritization hypothesis.
Well, yes, that's how I sound smart.
That's true. That's probably what do it right away. Okay, so you got this thing.
You got this thing, and it's always there. And as you're going through the data, so we're going through analytics, we're interviewing customer service people. We're reading all the live chat transcripts. We're reading all the ratings and reviews. We are collecting data where we can. If you've got personas, if you've got marketing studies,
Nice.
we're not just reading them and going, oh, I think I have an idea of what we should be doing. We're taking specific ideas from those and putting them on the list. And what that does is it allows us to catch anything. So the crazy stuff gets put on there, like make videos of all your products. That's a crazy idea, but there's a way to test it to see if it in fact would change things and if it would justify the expense of doing something like that. All the way down to make headlines more emotional, or take a different direction on headlines, or make the copy smaller, make the copy longer, try different images, pull things from the bottom to the top. All these ideas can go on there. And then we can go in and start looking at the data, see if there's any evidence that these are good ideas. Those for which we see in analytics, oh, this page is a problem. And then we go look at the heat map reports and we say, oh yeah, people are clicking on the wrong things. That idea has a lot of support and it will start to rise to the top of the list. And so this is how we rank things. So keep everything. What I'm saying is be as creative as you want. You don't have to bet your whole budget on the ideas anymore when you've got some interim ways of understanding if an idea really is crazy or if it's even going to help. And this will make sure that you're testing the right things.
Yeah, that's cool because 99 things I don't have, but one of those is not crazy, right? So I have a room full of crazy for sure. So I love the idea of testing that, but it's a good point. The data actually frees you, empowers you to try out in a smaller environment, or just a slice of the pie. Try the thing out. I mean, what is marketing but testing? So let's change and evolve and try different things, and it doesn't get, I guess it doesn't get political either, right? Because it's not like it could, but it's like your idea, my idea. Let's just test it, see if it works.
Actually, it does get political, and so there's some other things that that the data really does help. So
sure,
it does get political. There are plenty of us that report to what I call helicopter executives, or what Avinash Kaushik calls hippos, the highest paid person in the organization. And because they sign your checks, they get to decide what goes on the new website design, or they get to decide what goes on the landing page.
Right.
Sample size of 1, by the way.
We know how that works.
What we're going to do is use data to expand that sample size. So sample size of 1, that guy, plus our input, plus the creative agency. We might get 10 people involved in making decisions on this. We want more people, and we want more people who are our prospects and customers. So that's really what testing and data collection is all about. It's just growing your sample size, because the bigger the sample size, the more people we find that agree with a certain design, the more likely the whole population is going to agree. And what does that mean? Everybody who comes to our website, everybody who goes to our campaigns is going to convert at a higher rate, because we tested it with a large sample of people. So we can do everything from taking our creative and putting it in front of 25 people at Usability Hub or Helio, which are, just bring people to allow you to ask them questions. That gets you up to 25 more people. And if you don't feel like you have enough, or if it's a tie between two creatives, you start adding people, all the way to doing A/B tests, which is designed to provide statistically significant sample sizes in a reasonable time and answer the questions. That's what we're doing. We are getting ourselves out of the way. That's the other myth that I'd like to address if we're still in.
Oh yeah, we smash all day, every day, man. Hardcore marketing. Let's do this.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about buyer psychology. They're like, all right, how do we almost manipulate our buyers into making a choice that we want them to make? I, of course, prefer persuasion, where we're helping them make the choice. Even if the choice is leave, don't join my list because you're not going to buy and you never will buy.
Right.
Our psychology is really the problem. Our bias, what's going on in our heads. We will go in and look at data. We can even look at an A/B test and use our biases about what we really want to happen to change the interpretation of really clear data. This happens. This is one of the most humbling things about data. You have this beautiful creative. You're really into it. You're really excited about it. You really think it's going to change the world. You do, a statistically significant A/B test, and it turns out what was already there is better. The
Oh,
people
wow.
who would be buying just like that, they buy more because of that.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking. And the tendency is to explain it away. But that's the science is there to keep us from doing that. So
Right.
it's not their psychology you need to worry about. It's
Your
yours.
own. Interesting. Yeah. The answer is right there, as long as you're open, willing to take advantage of them, as opposed to interjecting what you think they should be. And I think one of the lessons here too is we may not be our buyer, and so
We usually aren't.
we
We're
usually are.
marketing to
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
even inadvertently marketing to ourselves. Even after we've read all the personas and all the marketing studies, we think we have this vision of who we're talking to. It's probably you that you're talking to.
Totally.
You'll only pull the things out of those marketing studies and personas that agree with what your vision of things are. And so we bias those. And that's why the list is great, because you just really go down the recommendation list and we just pull every idea out without even judging it. We can't judge it until we have some data on it.
Interesting. Do you have you have all these ideas? Do you tend to put them in a hierarchy? Is there like a hierarchy of ideas? Do you have your own version of Maslow, and that certain ideas you should go to first, like
Yes.
colors or personas first, and then other things? Like how do you rank order that?
Yeah. So whenever we're developing that, there are 5 buckets, and we want to make sure that we have hypotheses from all the buckets.
Buckets.
Right?
Teach.
We have
I'm listening.
buckets.
I'll write these down.
So value proposition is usually the first most important thing. The words and images that you use to communicate your value proposition on a website, in an ad, on a landing page, throughout a campaign.
Wow.
Are you communicating those things? To give you an idea, that spans everything from on an e-commerce site, your shipping and return policy. Those are all part of your value proposition. The images that you use to communicate. This is why we don't favor stock images on websites, because they just communicate something that's kind of pandering. Why are there pretty people standing around smiling?
Yeah, they're always
They don't
like
work here.
in that file, that manila envelope that
We call that business porn, by the way, when you're using stock images all over your site. The second thing, value proposition, layout. So is the layout of the page, the ad, the landing page, the website, getting the visitor's eyes to all the pieces of the value proposition that they need?
Is this number 2, or is this still part
This is
of
number
that?
2. This is bucket number 2.
Okay.
And
so is it empowering number 1, or can they see number 1?
Yes. Well, yes. Anything that they need, that they need to have. The value proposition is the complete description of the product and why they should take advantage of the service. And so the layout is really designed to get the visitor's eyes there. Now, there's a bias in a lot of designers that they want to design something beautiful, and of course, beauty has a psychological effect on the reader.
True.
But sometimes they give up being a draftsman, like really being the steward of the visitor's eyes, up for beauty, and that trade-off will often work against us. So the third,
interesting. Yeah, beauty versus function, or versus result even.
Yeah, and I wish beauty won as more often than it does, because we've done beautiful things that just die in tests.
I have a question on layout. Yeah, I know, right? Sometimes there's have you seen those nasty 9-page long landing pages that usually are selling some kind of like pyramid scheme or vitamin supplement, or personal speaking something, sign up, but you scroll and it's like, okay, all this stuff, and then finally get to a button where you can buy, or you can keep scrolling, and then there's pictures and then more stuff, and then you can keep scrolling. I gotta imagine they work, because I see them all over the place. Do those work?
They do, and that's really a style that has worked since the days of direct mail. Some of the most revered copywriters cut their teeth on long-form sales letter mailings. On the internet, they work for warm audiences. So someone has opted in to a lead magnet at some point. They've received several emails from you. You're good at building trust through email. You say, okay, well, thanks for doing that. You do what they call a tripwire, which is an inexpensive item that separates the non-buyers from the buyers. And then once they get the $7 thing, you can say, here's the $15,000 thing. That takes you to a sales letter. They already know you. They already have some trust as they're reading through it, and they already have an interest. That's when those long form sales letters. Now, not anyone
After a
can write
tripwire or
those.
not before? Because I see it
After the tripwire.
okay, I
When you
see
get
them
to the final
beforehand, and I just
and
yeah,
those are used a lot in information products, quick hit product launches, and things like that. I don't think that we as marketers should dismiss them because there's an element that is maybe, well, it's your bias that says that supplements are bad, that financial advice and newsletters is bad, or whatever.
pyramid schemes are bad.
Pyramid schemes.
Yeah.
Well, we know pyramid schemes are bad, but those are our biases that might lead us away from testing an idea like that. But if you've got a copywriter that's capable of producing long form content like that and bringing the visitor from, I just bought something for $7 to, God, I really got to consider this thing for $100 or $1,500 or $15,000. You should really consider the format and give it a test.
Do you think that would work in a B2B setting? Because I don't think I've ever seen it in a B2B type landing page and whatnot. Usually it's for that kind of like B2C type purchase now.
Yeah, the problem with B2B is that you typically, unless you're dealing with the owner or somebody who reports directly to the owner in a smaller organization, it doesn't have to be small, but I guess a flatter organization.
Yeah.
They're worried about the business. So they have this immediate need and it will work on them. The people under them, one of their primary concerns is making a recommendation that will jeopardize their jobs. In fact, their jobs and careers are really their primary thing. So if there is a page that doesn't have the credibility of a design, and this is really where designers can make a difference, is presenting credibility, then that person is not going to recommend that product or not going to recommend that service because it looks scammy and they don't want to jeopardize their career.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. But I love the idea of the make a good recommendation that doesn't get them fired. So it kind of reminds me of IBM, that whole phrase of no one gets fired hiring IBM.
Fired by hiring IBM. That's right.
They nailed that. Like, that's no fair. They stole that whole buying motivation, that deep seated need to make a good recommendation. I was like, smart.
Yeah.
So, okay. So those long form, it has its places. Layout was the second one.
That was the second one. So the third bucket that we put things in is credibility and authority. And as I said, this is where the designer really should focus a little bit more of the creative energy. So am I presenting not just a credible site, but the expected site? So it's why you see banks with lots of blues, because blues communicate trust across the internet. So we kind of expect if we're going to a bank site, we'll see blues and blacks. There's going to be no pinks and purples on a typical bank site unless they're bringing a whole brand strategy that backs that up.
Right.
So credibility and authority can also be borrowed. You can borrow credibility and authority from the Better Business Bureau. If you have a high rating, you can borrow credibility from awards that you've won, how long you've been in business, how many products you've sold, how many people you've helped, how many puppies you saved. Whatever your thing is, you want to put that kind of information there to continue to build your authority.
Got it.
I do it by wearing a lab coat.
Right.
There's the science of enclosed cognition says that people will believe what I say more likely because I'm wearing this uniform.
Interesting. I like it.
Yeah. It also says that I think I'll score better on a cognitive test when I'm wearing it.
You think so?
The science says so, probably 17% better.
Oh,
so
really?
Not only do I think I'm smarter, you think I'm smarter than I really am.
Interesting. So if we dress up at school in a lab coat, I wonder if we'd do better on.
The science says you would. The science says you would.
I love
and
it.
if you put a lab coat on someone and call it art schmuck, they will not score better on cognitive tests, but they will rate themselves as more creative.
Really interesting.
These are the biases that we're dealing with. They're infiltrating everything we're trying to do as marketers every day.
I wrote that down earlier too. The biases come up a lot, and it sounds like you keep yourself on a pretty even keel and just sort of being aware of them, at least. Maybe you still have them, but I
still have them. Yep. And the moment that I think I fix them, that means that they've taken over.
They've taken over. Right.
But it's really, it's really interesting because this is coming up with biases with the Facebook and the hacking and stuff that everybody believes that Google and Facebook are biased in the way they're filtering their data.
Hmm.
And these companies are now talking about how the biases in their organizations need to be managed. So those companies have to do it. Us marketers and relatively
You got to
small
do it
teams
too.
have to focus on it.
Huh. Biases. So authority. Would that also be like a face on a page with a little quote underneath it saying, this guy's the
So
best?
great idea. You're going to put some business porn on there. You're going to have a stock photo of somebody
Well,
who's
no,
not,
maybe, yeah, maybe it's
or
your
you're going to put a
typical
picture of a customer
Yeah.
smiling and have the name of the company and the customer's name.
Yeah.
You don't have to say much more than that, but
True.
that's an image that if it's not moving the value proposition forward, it's establishing credibility and authority. There's really no reason to put stock photos on your site. The
Yeah, yeah.
shaking hands or
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
world with the stuff swirling around it. We see that a lot in business to business because.
And I imagine when you see that, you can immediately test away from it. You can crush it with a more authentic image.
Yeah, so that'll be one of the first things we put on there. Can we get a picture of an employee? Can we get a picture of a customer? Can we get a diagram that explains the product? Could we insert video that explains the product?
Right, right. Yesterday I saw a presentation from Salesforce, and they had this whole slide with 8 people with Trailblazers hoodies on, cut in with hoodie, like, hey, what's up? And their name and where they work. And there's just 8 of them across the whole slide. And it looked good. It's like, here's the, extended customer base doing what they do. And that actually spoke to me more than the slide a couple slides later that mentioned customer X adopted this product, XYZ, 40% open rate, or blah, 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 right? Didn't have that face on it. So it was interesting that the contrast of, the story, you understand. Now, of course, that was better than no story and just slides upon slides about the product, but it was really cool connecting to like the people and seeing their faces.
Yeah. Well, the Eisenberg brothers really defined if you don't have personas to work with, they really defined a great way of kind of shortcutting that.
Interesting.
In their book, Waiting for Your Cat to Bark, which I think you can get like for just a few dollars now. It's a few years old.
Love the title.
Maybe almost a decade old. My goodness. But
couldn't possibly be. I mean,
it's a Bible for me because you can really put people in these buckets. Are they spontaneous? Are they methodical? Are they competitive? Are they humanist? And you have different kinds of content for that. When you begin to understand kind of the mix of your audience, you can make sure that you're producing content and elements on the page that are delivering for each of them. And that's exactly what you were talking about. So the slide you found, it didn't work for me, might appeal to that methodical person who's really looking for details and data and process.
Yeah, I wonder if that ties into things like the Colby. I don't know if you've ever done that. The Colby.
You're the first person I've ever heard mention that. Every time I bring it up, people are like, you talk about like the A index?
Yeah.
Colby. Yeah. I love that report. Do you use that for team building?
We used to DISC everybody. But then I got introduced to Colby, and DISC you can kind of, just because it's testing for everyone listening, it's like how you present yourself. It really is more of that personality, whereas Colby is your instincts, and it's harder to detect. And the person who actually taught me about it, we asked her, can you predict based on just chatting with people? And she's like, I'm 50-50, and I've been doing this for like 20 years.
Yeah, I believe it.
You can really, I love the Colby. So yeah,
I like it.
High fact finder people would be all about that other slide.
I like it too because it's very much like what we do. There is, you can understand through a persona the personality of a buyer, but you don't really understand them. So what do you do to understand what their triggers are and how they're going to behave in action?
Right.
You don't really want to know their personality. You want to know what their context is.
That's a good point.
And the Colby is a study of how people are in action. It's cognitive.
Right.
And that's why I love it, because it can tell me how someone will be in situations where they're taking action as opposed to what their tendencies are, for what movies they like or what books they like or what they like to do with their free time, right?
Your DISC would tell you, hey, is this person going to be happy on the phone, or are they going to be cranky, or are they going to be more direct? But it's not going to tell you the underlying thing. With Colby, to your point about the action, it's how you approach a problem or how you take action on a situation. And in the summary for folks listening, some people really want to get all the facts first, or some people don't. There's like scales. So all the facts, then I'll make a decision, or don't worry about the facts. Someone else might be, I need to plan this whole thing out. I need to plan like the next 9 months, and then I'll get started, and then I'll make a decision. And then there's people, quick start, my favorite, which is also me, which is, let me just do this and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And then the last group, implementing, let me build a model, let me build a physical structure to look at and twirl in my hands. So yeah, that's a really interesting point, because it's not so much how introverted or extroverted are they. It's more, how are they going to approach the problem? Do they need the facts, or the facts going to bore them the hell out of them? So to your point, Kolbe would actually supersede a lot of these other things, a lot of these other tests and buckets you might put people in.
Yeah. And not to dwell on it, but the scale goes from initiate or prevent or moderate.
Oh, good
so
point.
Like, for instance, I'm high on quick start. I think you'll find a lot of people who started businesses are high on quick start. On the planning, I'm prevent. And that doesn't mean that I will. Yeah. It does mean that I will sabotage people who are trying to plan too much. But really what it means is there's a point to which I'm like, we can't keep planning this. We need to get out there. And that's really getting out and getting data. So I'm always looking for ways to reduce the cost of starting something. And that's what, coming back to our conversation, that's what this data is doing for you in marketing. It is reducing the cost of finding the right answers. Right now, most of your research is what we call launch and pray. Right. You launch it, you spend the budget, and then if it worked, you do it again. If it didn't work, you go back to the drawing board. What I'm saying is we can reduce the cost of figuring out which of your assumptions in that design, the images and words used in the ad, the images, word, and the copy that you used on the landing page, which of those ideas really was a good idea and which weren't. Right. With some inexpensive tests. I mean, we're in a golden age of tools. The entrepreneurs are bringing us everything we want. We can collect data on almost anything. Absolutely. Good point, by the way. Great job bringing me back onto the test, because I could talk about Kolbe all day long. So, but I won't say the K word anymore. Otherwise, it's Kolbe with a K, people. Yeah, it is with a Kolbe. Definitely check it out. Oh, for sure. And I gotta go dig mine up. I wonder if it's changed. You know what your numbers are? See, we're back on it. I've got it. I look it up every few years, but I haven't taken it again. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to swap numbers. You learn a lot about someone from understanding their Kolbe numbers. A friend of mine actually introduces people by saying, "Hey, meet Casey. He's at this. John, meet so and so. They're at this." Just because you're like, "Oh, okay," and then you understand. We're going to use it on our team too, just so we understand, why is this person doing all this research? Because that's what they do. If we need to pull them back, great. But if we need the research done, that's the person to go to. So, anyways, it's great stuff. But yeah, we could do a whole show on Kolbe. What's number 4 for the people, for the high fact finding people out there going, look, I'm keeping track. You did 1, 2, 3. We got value proposition, we got layout, we got credibility and authority. So we want hypotheses from those 3 categories, and we want hypotheses from the social proof category. So for an e-commerce site, the obvious social proof is ratings and reviews. And that if we have a client that has not implemented ratings and reviews, that's one of the first things we put on there from their playbook. Setting ratings and reviews. I beg your pardon? In like B2B world, ratings and reviews. Yeah. So in the B2B world, you're going to put like the logos of your customers. That's a great place. Any media outlets, because this is what we call borrowing trust. And so what you're doing is your social proof allows you to borrow trust from other people. Testimonials, great source of social proof in the B2B space. Case studies. I've been seeing a little bit of research that says case studies are very influential in the buying process in B2B. From people who have a financial stake. So they have some biases in how they're interpreting that data. But if we can go in and look at the sample size and read the methodology, we're all natural scientists, by the way. We're already wired for it. If you want me to go there, I will. But yes, so those are great sources of social proof in a B2B space. Success. How many have you sold? It works both as a credibility builder and as a social proof. Excellent. Social proof. Things like, I'm thinking like G2G crowd and other sites that, rate how well this app does, or this consulting group. G2 Crowd, yes, that absolutely. Amazon comments and absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely I found those helpful for making the purchase of. I do a lot of Audible lately, so the stars. If there's like 30,000 of them and most of them are high, or if there's a smaller group saying that there's a low, then maybe I could be in that group. Just didn't
Hmm.
like it, so I usually check out the reviews on that side too. But okay, social proof,
Social proof. So we got value proposition, we got layout, we got uh,
credibility,
credibility,
authority,
authority. We've got social proof, and last is just plain old trust. So
trust.
if I give you my contact information, am I going to get spammed? Is it going to be sold to somebody? Am I going to get phone calls from people I don't want to talk to, like pushy salesmen? Uh, if I'm buying something, is my credit card going to get stolen? Are you going to get hacked? So any hypotheses that address the customer's concern about making the wrong decision
Mm,
from an exploitative standpoint. I want to feel secure. I want to feel comfortable transacting with you online. So in our e-commerce playbook, one of the first things we do is put trust symbols in the checkout process. So a lot of e-commerce sites will do a lot of work around making you feel comfortable during the shopping process, add to cart, and then you go to the checkout process. Well,
yeah.
that's where you're starting to really give some serious information, and they forget to like remind people of the care
Mm,
that they're taking. They you want to repeat those trust symbols if you're if you've got PCI compliance through a third party, go ahead and use those there. And even things like putting PayPal logos,
yeah.
Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, all of those work to essentially borrow trust. And in this context, to make a person feel like, okay, I'm in a secure site that they're going to ship me what they promised me and they're not going to steal my money.
It's interesting, the idea of borrowing trust, because they don't necessarily have it with us, but we are borrowing it from other sources because it's a lot faster than trying to build it up over the next 6 months with someone.
Yeah, well, I mean, that takes years.
Yeah.
And it usually takes a pretty significant budget to really establish trust in the marketplace. So
Right.
most of our businesses, especially on the internet, have not been around that long. So we really do need to borrow
Oh,
trust, social proof, credibility, and security from more well-known brands.
wow. Good deal. Those are the 5 people.
Those are the
So
5.
that's the order you would look at. So you're gathering all the data, and then you're looking at these 5 key elements for what
Yeah,
can
so
we
we're
test.
gathering the data, we're putting ideas down, and then we'll go back and count. So
Yeah.
what we'll see is that this website has an overriding problem with messaging.
Mm,
We have a lot of hypotheses about how to improve the messaging. And so that gives us an idea of what strategy we should be taking. Whenever we approach a site, is the problem in the flow, whereas people are starting to learn about the business and deciding if they want to take action? Or
right.
is the problem in the taking of the action, that there are forms that are too onerous, or the promise is not being well made, or those landing pages aren't performing well? And
Mm,
so if we see a messaging problem, that tells us it's more upper. If we see a whole lot of issues around trust and credibility, because there's a lot of abandonment on landing pages, then maybe we'll start closer to the bottom of the proverbial funnel.
right.
So that gives us an idea of the strategy. And if we find that there aren't, like if we don't have any social proof hypotheses, then we're probably, when our biases are taking over, we need to back up and go look again for some hypotheses around there.
To your point, we were joking earlier, like if you don't think there's any biases, then they've already got you. But it's true. Like to your point here, no, we're good on the value prop, no big deal. Oh, wait a second, what is there a bias here that we are good? Maybe we're not. Like what? So how do you keep yourself in check with that? Do you just you ask what if, or
Yes, so it is a lot of what if. Let me
yeah.
tell you a story that kind of, I think, illustrates that. We have several clients in the addiction treatment center space.
Yep.
Um, they're primarily interested in getting phone calls because those are the most effective. And we think it's an important job because somebody who's struggling with an addiction, or a loved one who's got a son or other
Mm-hmm.
relative that's struggling with addiction, there's a real chance that we could save their lives and save
Right.
the family. We had a landing page that was performing really well and had a very simple headline. It said, "We can help." and put the phone number to call. And incidentally, if you're optimizing for phone calls, put the phone number in the headline. That's something that works over and over for us.
In the headline, like in the H1 text, or?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so we thought our hypothesis was if we could create a little bit more emotional headline that we would be able to increase phone calls. So we tested, are you ready to start healing? We can help call. Yeah. Speak to a compassionate rehab specialist, call. And we were able to try this one. Are you ready to stop lying? We can help, call. Now that is a risk. If we didn't have testing, if we weren't doing an A/B test, there's no way we would take a chance on that, because we'd launch it and it's too risky. We could see it just calls crater.
So start healing, talk to someone.
Talk to a compassionate rehab specialist. And are you ready to stop lying? Because there is this deception that goes on around addiction. You probably can guess the punchline. That one won far and away, like a 43% increase in calls, which is huge for that particular campaign, that landing page. Creative rehab specialist also is a big winner. Are you ready to start healing? This kind of conceptual one actually reduced phone calls by almost 20%.
Wow.
So this is what you can do with data. Number one, you're buying yourself insurance. It's an insurance policy that you're not throwing something out that seems like, are you ready to start healing? That seems like a reasonable thing. Certainly it's better than just we can help, right? That would have been a 20% drop in calls. So you buy insurance that you don't shoot yourself in the foot. And as I said earlier, those crazy ideas that hit you when you're not focused at work, like when your creative side gets to take off, they may be the ones that you should be looking at.
Yeah, it may be it. And so really embrace that. You know what? That's more fun. That's why we got into marketing in the first place.
That's why we got in. It was Steve Jobs and guys like that got us into it. That's what we wanted to do, you know?
You know, have you sort of like dove into those three to try to figure out why they did that, or are you just sort of taking it at face value? Because I was trying to figure out the difference between healing and lying.
So anytime you have a test that concludes like that, especially if you have some winners, you can't just say, oh, now we know. It spawns other questions like, all right, what was that? Is that because it was so unexpected that people had to read, and is that going to wear off? So what we do is we do a process of post-test analysis, and we can go in and look at the analytics and kind of tease out how different segments perform. So here is the other myth that we can bust, is that most of your tests.
Actually, hold on for a second before you bust that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you bumped into self-determination theory.
SDT.
No. I'm going to throw a LinkedIn article out there, but the lying versus the healing, I'm just throw it out there because it's Tuesday. But the healing, it's like something's wrong with you. You're broken. But the lying is there's nothing wrong with you. You're not taking responsibility, but you can fix it. You just need to stop doing that thing you're doing. And there's three things in self-determination theory. And one of them is empowerment. Like, you got this. It's not, we're not the hero. You're the hero. We're just the guide. So you got this. We're not trying to say you're broken. You can fix it. We can point you in the right direction. I was just wondering if maybe that was it, Well,
the beauty is this. I think it's a great idea. So the question is, we got 43%. Can we do better?
Right.
So you might say, based on determination theory, I have a hypothesis for why that worked. Can we double down? Can we make it even more empowering?
Right.
Can we say, can we test? There's nothing wrong with you. We can help you, whatever.
Yeah. We'll show you how to do it. Yeah.
You do a split test and you find out on, some percentage of the traffic. Those hypotheses can show up.
See, I like even that, right? There's not really a no until you've tried it. And it's like, well, we tried that and it didn't actually work, or we tried it and it did. Like, if you hadn't tried that lying, how sad it would if the healing was the best one that there was, or talk to a compassionate person and it was like a 1% increase, then that lying was still out there somewhere waiting to be discovered.
To be discovered, right?
Such So
And there's
anyway,
probably another one even bigger waiting to be discovered.
yeah, that's the fun part. So you're about to smash something, right? Something
I
about
was going to smash.
psychobabble.
I was going to smash the myth that I've lost that train of thought.
Oh man, such a jerk.
We were talking about.
Post-test analysis.
Oh yes, that this the myth that most of your tests are going to win. Actually, most of your tests are going to lose. And in fact, the average in the marketplace, including professional and amateur, quote unquote, amateur testers, is 1 in 7. You'll have one test that will give you some data, some positive data, versus for every 7. So there'd be 6 inconclusive tests.
We
didn't really learn anything. We didn't find a winner. We get better. We're better than that, fortunately, because we have to be. Otherwise, people won't renew with us.
We got lab coats, so
Yeah, but what we do is when we have an inconclusive test, we can go in and see if there weren't a certain segment of visitors that actually reacted positively.
Right.
And we're starting to get the tools that are going to allow us to personalize what we're learning. So it's not unusual for us to find an offer. It's flat. We go and we look and we see that Safari and Firefox and Chrome, Firefox visitors, they hated it. But we find like Internet Explorer visitors loved it.
Wow.
And so we could actually personalize the message based on which browser the visitor was coming in. And
was it like old people?
It's less tech savvy. They're using the default browser.
Right.
And so that is the hypothesis, and probably a little bit older. So we do see that segment does skew a little bit older.
Yeah, I'm being kind of tongue in cheek, but it makes sense that you can slice and dice, and it may not be a winner for everyone, but it may be a winner for a select group. And to your point, if you can target that can be a win, unto itself.
Yeah, well, and we've found through our research, and I just saw a study that confirmed this, that people who own Macintosh products and Apple products, they have a higher socioeconomic status. They make more money. And so we treat them a little bit different. They make decisions differently than folks who don't.
Interesting. I thought you were going to say are better looking, savvier, smarter. I was like, oh, thanks.
I have an Android, so I couldn't say
an Android, and you don't even have a Mac computer? Oh man.
Nope.
But somehow we get along.
Somehow we do. I'm one of the few holdouts here. Everybody else is Macintosh. Hey, they're productive, so I'm not going to throw stones.
Right. Hey, whatever gets the job done.
You're doing a good job.
I love that you can just. You know what? The other thing is with the testing too. It may be inconclusive, but maybe you did learn something from that. Maybe you learned that those two things just really aren't a factor. That's not even that value prop it's either that's not it, or you just said it wrong, or the whole topic in general that you're testing is just, it's not a thing.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes, like I said, insurance is great. So you have an idea, you're going to test it against control. It doesn't help things, doesn't hurt things. So you can go with that idea if you like it better, if it's more on brand, things like that. There's a cost sometimes to being on brand that reduces your sales, reduces your conversion rates. And you just need to know what that number is. If it's probably a 5% hit to sales, but brand is important. So
where have you seen that? Where are people upholding brand and losing out on?
We see it all the time. Honestly, it often gets done when there is this helicopter executive involved. So we'll present a test, and they'll be like, "Yeah, but number one, we spend a lot of money developing the new content and the new brand. It doesn't look like it's too big of a hit." And they also start explaining away the data. Is like, do we have the right sample size and all this stuff? And so they'll make the choice to go ahead and go with what is aesthetically more pleasing. So.
Oh, the extent, yeah. We had a company that we're working with, shall remain nameless, but their executives use Lotus Notes. The rest of the world doesn't use Lotus Notes.
Wow, it's been a while.
They may or may not have made the call to design the email, because you can make the email look good in everything else or Lotus Notes, right? And so they may have made the call or may not have made the call to have everything designed in Lotus Notes so that their executive people would see it, but everyone else would see an email that was slightly messed up because it was designed for Lotus Notes. you know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's probably an expensive
Yeah.
capitulation. But again, in a certain size organization, it's not as much about sales as it is about keeping your job. So
Right.
I don't want to say, I don't mean that as pejoratively as it sounds. I mean, that is, that is what corporations offer. They offer training, they offer salary, they offer security. And so when we're out there selling in a business to business space, let's honor that. Let's honor that our
Right.
job is to make people better, even if they have some strange incentives in their culture.
And not that they can necessarily even control those, you know?
Right.
So,
No, and
hey,
usually they can't.
it's your point, honor, like that's the situation. So how can you help them?
Yeah,
You
that's the
know?
context.
Yeah. I think what we ended up doing was we made them one um, design like that they could send out in prep for, their leaders, and then got the rest of the audience the right one. But to your point, there's a cost, right? There's a cost for either being a brand or for that kind of an environment and that kind of leadership. And that's probably
Yeah.
why you and I even, went out and created other things, because we've experienced that. And it's not, life's too short to live around that kind of an atmosphere.
Yeah, I was not a good employee.
Me
No,
neither, man.
I
That's
had too many
interesting.
ideas.
I was a horrible, actually, I was okay for about a year. Like
Yeah,
6 months
when you were building something like
building something new.
and then they said just start putting quarters in the machine. You're like,
Yeah.
I want to build something else. What about this? What about this?
New employees have about like a 6 month to a year runway of new ideas and innovation before they're like, you've been here a while. We're just going to do it as we do it. But you
Yeah.
first come in, you're like, look, guys, I got to be a bull in China shop. I'm going to smash things. Like, yeah, smash things. That's why we brought you in. And then eventually it's like, no, you can't smash anymore.
That's that
You
quick
know,
start in you.
it is the quick 100%. Yeah. Quick starts get people in trouble, but they also create ideas. So
Yeah, they
go
do.
figure. Hey, you had a really cool, the 14 persuasive writing techniques. The idea of you had this analysis of emails, the subject lines, you rank them all
Mm-hmm.
versus click through. Could you share some of the lessons learned? Just it's almost like a list of hacks, really. But I was just curious from all your data, what you saw. Were there anything that stood out?
Well, so any marketer that says, "Okay, I get what you're saying, Brian. I agree with you. I am now going to go out and start using data. Number one, to help me make decisions. Number two, to help me manage helicopter executives. Number three, to keep my agencies right." How many times has an agency brought you their creative, and it's their job, and they're really creative people, and they did the research, and there's just something not right about it?
Yeah.
Well, you can use data to test that and find out if you're being the helicopter executive, or if in fact there's something that they hadn't considered.
Hmm.
Um, the first place to look is where data already is, and two of my favorite places is, I think you should go down to the basement. There's this big oak door. You push it open slowly, and inside are these
Is
PPC
Narnia.
guys. They're working on ads that's bringing traffic to your website. Open it slowly because the light's going to hurt their eyes.
Right.
But they're going to be really glad to see you. And they're going to be able to give you a spreadsheet going back in time of the ads that have run, how many impressions they've got, which is the sample size. You want to pay attention to large sample size.
Yeah.
What the click-through rate and conversion rates are if they've got that instrumented. And so you begin to understand what offers and what words are really working for your website. So I did the same thing, going to your email service provider or your marketing automation system and pulling a very simple report. I looked at subject line, and I ranked it by click-through rate.
Yeah.
Open rate it's a little wonky of a metric
I
because
agree. I hate it.
you have to have a large sample to work the noise out, because not everybody looks at
My bias
emails
toward
with.
open rates is huge.
Yeah, there is, because a lot of times they tell you what you really want to hear. You don't want
Right.
to see single digit click-through rates. But anyway, so I ranked these and I looked at what the themes were in the subject lines, and it was how to write persuasive copy, how to write persuasive taglines, 6 ways to write killer copy. The top 10 was full of copy and writing related. That told me that people wanted to know about the words that could be used to improve their copy. So copy, it is this challenge. It's very difficult to formulate because it's so easy to change, and we're also creative with words, and it's hard to test because
Right.
it comes in so many forms: long form, short form, lots of bullets, not lots of bullets, highlighting, subheadlines, different
Sure.
headlines.
Sure. Yeah.
But so this is where the question was. So we commissioned a lead magnet that was all about copywriting hacks that improve conversion optimization, and that's doing very well for us. So we went and looked at the data, and it helped us understand what a good lead magnet is what they're typically called. Get someone to start a conversation with you so you can see if they're interested in your other services.
Interesting. That started by looking at the data you already had.
Yes, start there. Go to your marketing automation, your CRM. Begin to understand, what where the highest close ratios are through which channels. Are they coming from your marketing? Are they coming from phone calls, incoming phone calls? Are they coming from outbound? The problem is that in a lot of organizations that's siloed away. So the sales department doesn't really generate reports from marketing. It's easier for them to just stand back and go, we're not getting enough leads.
Yes.
Well, show me the data.
Show me the data. Oh, and then you give them a lot of leads. They're not quality leads. They're poor quality. You didn't call them. I know.
Take them away.
Take them away. Oh, it's like the Dilly Dilly commercial, you know? Have you seen that? But I think it's Budweiser. Yeah, I hope it's Budweiser because someone else is about to get credit for it. Dilly, you haven't seen Dilly Dilly?
No.
So it's like a castle scene, and these people bring the king beer. Like, I brought you some Bud Light. And the king's like, thank you, noble sir. Dilly Dilly. And everyone's like, Dilly Dilly. Becomes like a cheer. And
this was I think I did see this. It was a Super Bowl commercial, wasn't it?
Yes. And then this other guy brings it. He goes, this is a local craft beer. I think it's a double IPA, and it's very hoppy. I brought this for you. And the king's like, outraged. He's like, let me introduce you to Sir Joseph. He's going to take you to the pit of misery. Just bring him up. Dilly Dilly. So anyways, it was a good one. And I'm not sure where that came from, but yeah, Dilly Dilly.
Well, if you want a real quick beer story, one of the major brands was, I got to speak to someone at an agency that was testing, they're fighting this craft beer craze that people are drinking a lot of beer, starting to, they're buying local, they're buying more expensive, they're buying higher alcohol content, more flavor. And so their positioning idea was, we're the beer that you drink later in the night after you've started to have too many. We're like the come down beer, so you can keep drinking without getting totally blasted.
Right.
Which it's an interesting position, and you go out and you collect the data and see if it's gonna stick.
Or like, when have you ever dropped a shot, a shot of something into a craft beer? Come on, you're not gonna do that. The real party's over here.
Oh, you're one of those. We got a party sometime.
We do. Dreamforce maybe. You doing that this year?
Mm-mm.
No,
I haven't been to Dreamforce.
You've never been to Dreamforce?
I have not been to Dreamforce.
You should test it and go.
I should probably.
You should check it out. It's
We're customers, so.
Yeah. Oh, then you just, ask them, kind of do the whole, hey, I'd love to go. If only I had a ticket. See what happens. But yeah, it's a good one. But
it's huge.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. But yeah, partying and it's almost like I wonder if they could do the whole Apple. You know how Apple's like the cool guy on the TV. Then there's the PC who's like the not cool guy who's dropping stuff, and he's making fun of the Apple guy. And he's like, And so they could do the same thing with a beer. You could have like the security guy, being all impressive with the the ladies, and then you have like the pool party, and you're like, come on, which one do you want to be? Corona.
Hipster guy versus K-cup guy.
Right. Exactly.
C-cup. What's the red ones called? K-cups.
Oh yeah. Well, the K-cups are just the regular.
Those are the coffee things.
Yeah.
I forgot what the red ones are called. There's a song about them.
Is there? So it sounds like you're having a blast. I mean, Conversion Sciences is the company, right?
Yes.
So you just get to test and optimize things for people all the time.
We totally do. And you know what? It's, even though we're not supposed to be biased, it is a lot like watching sports. You launch an idea, you design a test that's going to give you data, and you're supposed to like totally walk away, wait the whole 2 weeks, and then go back and see what happened.
Right.
But we're in there like looking at those tests. It's almost like betting on horses. There is this kind of a sense that we are placing bets and playing the percentages to an extent. So it's kind of fun that way. And at first, when you get surprised, it usually hurts your feelings because it means that something you really thought was going to win has lost. But you start to
Right.
get these weird insights into businesses that are just like transformative. They're like, we never would have gone down this road if we hadn't collected some data around it. And that just feels really, really good.
Yeah, interesting. Kind of pushing boundaries for companies. I wonder, is it a fun experience for them, or is it kind of scary testing out these ideas, or do they not even know till you have the results and then it's like, let's find out?
That's a good question. So we draw a certain kind of business. We draw a business that is dedicated. I think conversion optimization is really moving into the mainstream now. A lot more people are doing it, and it's being considered in budgets and stuff. But for most of our lifetime since 2007, it's been the people that are the early adopters, and they're like, all right, I'm always looking for ways to make my online business better, and we knock it out of the park. So we have our North Star metric is renewals. How often do customers renew with us and go for another 6 or 12 months? And once they get a taste of what this data can do, they hire us for more revenue, but then they renew with us for a whole other set of reasons, because
I could see it being addicting, right?
It is.
What other kind of changes, what other kind of improvements can we make?
Yeah. So it's time. Every website's going to have to go through this process. Right. The days of let's get a big budget and do a redesign and, launch a whole bunch of assumptions all at once and hope that it helps things are going to die. Every website is going to have to go through this process of, all right, we have all this data, we should start using it.
Right.
And that's really all we're doing here.
And is it just the websites and landing pages and emails, or do you get into like the whole process really?
So we really do focus on the landing experience. Okay. Having said that, when we start learning about what's going on with landing pages, it transforms the paid search, it transforms the email approach.
Totally.
And sorry, my phone's going off.
That's an excited customer calling you another customer wanting business in the middle of a podcast. This is awesome. It's
sorry
like a live that. Jerry Lewis, fundraiser.
I thought it was in the other room. Sorry about that.
No worries. It's real and authentic. So who are you, man? How did you become this really cool dude that has a lab coat and gets to have fun testing marketing stuff all day long?
I really didn't have any choice whatsoever. I'm a computer programmer by training. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. When I graduated, I actually went into sales because I had some social skills. Worked for a semiconductor company, TI, Texas Instruments, for several years out in California. Wanted to get back into sales, came back to Texas, started my own company in the 90s.
Okay.
The dot-com bust took out a few of our customers, took us out. Mm-hmm. And so I started building marketing backends for technology companies here in Austin.
Okay.
Excuse me. So I don't know what else you do with a computer programmer, marketing, sales, entrepreneur, other than be a conversion scientist. There's really, nothing else that uses all of those quite as well. So I get to use the programming. I wrote my own analytics package in the early aughts.
Wow.
Whatever we call that first decade of the century. And then Google, of course, came out with something that beat mine hands
Google
down.
Analytics, perhaps.
Yeah, but that's the theme. I mean, these tools are coming out that are making it data collection and consumption easy. It's more expensive now not to collect data because of the lost sales than it is to go ahead and just bite the bullet and make data part of your design and decision-making process. So that's what I did. In 2007, I put on a lab coat and hung a shingle, and we've been having fun ever since.
That's cool. That's really cool. It's funny because I did computer science too. And it's funny because there's a lot of folks I think went that route because computers, internet, that's all fun. But back then it was, I guess everything fit into that. I mean, for me, I was trying to figure out what to do in college, and AOL had just come out. So it was like, well, I like the internet, so maybe I should do computer science. Nothing to do with computer science whatsoever, right? And I thought, oh, maybe I'll be like a network guy. I don't know. Building websites on my own, and actually created the Rubber Chicken Club, which was a link
The
exchange.
Rubber Chicken Club.
Yeah, it was a link exchange early on.
No kidding. Wow.
And so I'm doing all this stuff. So you just think like computer science, but it took me deeper and deeper and deeper into the computer. You know how it is. You're programming gates, open, closed, open, closed. You're like, what are we doing here?
I was writing games on an Atari 800.
Atari, really?
Yes, with on the 6502. I think it was 6508 graphics chip.
So I assumed you predated me because of your really cool stash, but I was programming games on like the Apple IIe, that type of thing, and I just remember early in school, the teacher was like, oh, do this lesson, and I'd put a password on it, and I put an Easter egg in there, and wondering why the simple assignment has like the 80 other lines of code in there because I was bored, trying to wait for the teacher to come check off the assignment. But so it's interesting, computer science. But how did you go right into sales after that? Was it just they took you deeper and deeper, and you didn't want to hang out with tape anymore? And
I co-opted IBM during college, and I saw my first IBM sales guy with the blue coat and the red tie and the expensive rings, expensive watch, and I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
But unfortunately, IBM had a hiring freeze. So I was like, the first hiring freeze in their history. So we joined up with another big tech company.
Huh.
It was a good experience.
So, I mean, everyone's really in sales in a way, and marketing's another way of doing sales at scale. So, it's cool, that kind of experience. But I could definitely seeing the flashy sales person, be like, oh, that's pretty exciting. For me, it was doing a bunch of marketing and then bumping into Salesforce and Pardot, seeing those salespeople, and they're awesome. They're the best of the best, and bumping into them, and I'm like, wow, these guys are cool, and they love to party. They can really party. And so I was like, this looks fun. And so it was like marketing and sales, and marketing and sales is fun. It's kind of bridging that gap. So yeah, good place.
We had some good, I guess we had some good parties out in California.
Yeah, you Texas Instrument, they know how to throw down?
They do.
Did you bring your calculators to the party, or how does that work?
We brought our DSPs.
What? See, I don't even know what that is.
Digital signal processors.
I still don't know what it is.
It's a special kind of processor. There's one in your phone. It's the processor in your phone that is just good at turning signal into data, and vice versa. So
signal into data. Wow.
Yeah.
See,
sorry, I geeked out on you a little bit there.
You paid way more attention to computer science than I did, apparently. And so where are you at? Are you out in?
We are in Austin, Texas, one of the finest cities on the planet.
It is actually a cool place.
It is a lovely place. I'm glad to be here.
Except culture, it's been food,
we're having a renaissance in food. There's so many amazing restaurants. I've never had tacos better than here.
Really?
We get through the summer, get a little warm this summer. Whew.
Yeah.
But then the winters are amazing, always outdoors. Nice creative class, a lot of young, smart, creative people. Love to work with them. So
I'm sure they love to work with you if they could have a Mac.
They can have a Mac. They get a lab coat. Why wouldn't you want to work for me?
Yeah, totally. Right. Totally. That's awesome. So, hey, where can people find you? Because I know you're speaking in a lot of different places.
Oh, yeah. So I'm all over the place. All of the deets are on our website and our blog. So at conversionsciences.com. I'm doing a number of gigs with the Digital Summit. So if you're in Chicago, Minneapolis, Dallas, Raleigh, or Charlotte, you can come, and I'm doing workshops at those. So I'm doing a full day workshop on our process and how we get into more detail about how we build out this list, how we rank it, how we do the research. So come check that out. And I also do a breakout session there where I turn an entire room of people into scientists, and they don't expect it.
Yeah, you said that earlier. You said everyone's a scientist?
Everyone's a scientist. You want to do it? You want to do it on your audience here?
Yeah. Yeah.
All
What's the
right.
deal?
So my son was 14 years old. He was building his first computer, building it. And the
Yeah.
kids don't go to malls anymore.
No.
They live online. They're
Yeah.
on Skype and League of Legends. And I guess Fortnite now is the
Snapchat.
thing. Overwatch. That's where they're
Fortnite.
hanging out with their friends. He was down to the last component. He'd been meticulous. I mean, this was his $1,000. If he messed this up, he was going to have a brick for years until he got another
Yeah.
$1,000 together. Motherboard. Everything plugs into the motherboard.
Yep.
He had two that were the same price. They had the features he needed. One was rated 4-star and one was rated 5-star.
Okay.
So 5 is better than 4, so you go with 5-star, right?
Right.
But no, we know better than that, and he knew better than this. Got to check the sample size. So we went and saw how many reviews were driving those
5 of 5.
and it was the 4-star one had 250 reviews. The 5-star one had 15 reviews.
Yeah.
So he didn't realize he was doing this, but he was calculating the margin of error. And he found the 5-star motherboard could just as well have been a 1-star motherboard because of the small sample size. Whereas the 4-star, maybe it's a 3, maybe it's a 5 when all the data's in. So we do this naturally whenever we go to Facebook and we look at how many people commented on and shared and liked our post. We're using other people's behaviors to make decisions about what we're going to be posting in the future. Rotten Tomatoes freshness list, other people's behaviors driving what we're going to watch. New York Times bestseller list. So we're already wired with this this ability to understand data, because no one's going to be surprised that you check the sample size. As soon as I said it, you're like, oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We already know this.
Yeah.
So everyone is already wired. You just got to get comfortable with some of the tools, get past some of maybe your own fears and biases, and you're going to start using this data with the best of us. You don't have to be a data scientist to be using this kind of data. And if you got a great marketing automation system that is collecting all sorts of things, as I said, email return rates, click-through rates, scores, when people are dropping out and dropping into a process, you can start using this data to make really good decisions in all of your marketing.
Huh. Yeah, everyone's a scientist.
Everyone's a scientist. You
it's
all
a
get
good
lab
point.
coats.
Those sample sizes on those stars. I don't know if have you read the book or heard of Ready Player One? It's like a movie out now. And
I'm familiar with the Spielberg movie, but I've only seen the trailer so far, and I've not read the book.
So I saw it. Oh, this looks like a cool movie. I want to see it. Went and before buying it, because it wasn't out yet on rental, I went and checked out Audible. I do a lot of books, and I've been listening to a little too many nonfiction. Sometimes you get in that thing where you're like, okay, I've learned a lot, people. I need to just.
I'm tired of improving myself.
In
my business, in my family life.
I just want to just veg out for a little bit, go somewhere else, And so Ready Player One had, so it's on Audible. Ready Player One. It has a bajillion reviews on there, and it was shocking because when I looked at the comparison, typically there'll be like 10,000 ratings on Audible. 10,000, 15,000 might be good. Ready Player One has 189,000 ratings, and it has it at 4.8. Right? It has so many ratings, and and obviously movies will do that, and it'll draw attention. But it's actually a really good book.
Yeah, I've heard great things about the book.
I've heard it's, and obviously books are usually better than movies, but I've heard people say like, yeah. And so I actually listened to the whole book. I recommend it highly. It's actually really good, and it got me on this like sci-fi kick. So I've just sort of been lost in the Bobaverse and all sorts of books. But yeah, it's a good point about the different numbers and how we're already making those calculations in our head.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we're expanding it to population. So, if there's only 15 reviews, how many motherboards have been sold? Probably not that many. Either it's not a good motherboard, or it hasn't been out that long.
Right.
Both of which are danger flags that, there's just not enough data in yet. So
you can buy
we do these things naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, this is cool, man. I don't know if you look at the clock, time has just flown by.
It really has. Wow.
Yeah, it's like a time warp.
Did we cover everything?
I think so. I don't know. You can actually never really cover everything. So it's kind of like, do we cover enough for now? And then, come back in a couple of weeks or a couple of months and do part 2 or something,
Yep.
So,
Well, so if your audience wants to learn how to do this on their own,
yeah.
we train it.
Yeah,
So
throw some
we've got a
links out.
training at
Where do we go?
conversionlive.com.
Conversionlive.com. Okay.
And if they can't make it to one of those digital summit shows that we're doing this fall, then they can take it online at their own pace. I will be teaching them how we do it for every one of our clients, and we are remarkably good at it.
That's really cool. I'll have to check out the digital summit, the list of those. What are the locations again? Did you have those handy?
Minneapolis, Chicago, Dallas, Raleigh, Charlotte.
Jeez. Everywhere but Boston. Come on, D Summit. What's going on?
Next year, I think they are doing a Boston show.
Okay,
So
as they rightly should. Center of the universe. But awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks again for coming on here. I've learned a bunch. I've got like pages of notes over here.
Wow.
Can't wait to dive in and do some testing.
It's addicting. Be careful.
I believe it. Do you have a support group for Testers Anonymous? That
Not yet, but soon we are going to be like, I can't stop collecting data.
Right.
At some point, you do got to stop collecting data and make a decision. But
true. Well, at least we don't have to worry about the fact finder thing going on. But you go home, you start testing your family, see how they react in different ways.
You'll be amazed at the sorts of places you'll find A/B tests. I will split test my kids. So.
Yeah, totally. Well, this has been awesome, man. Thanks again for coming on here.
I'm so glad you had me.
For sure. And for everyone else listening, and if you learned something, definitely share this with someone else so they get the info too. And it's also on YouTube if you'd rather watch us. And we're both, good-looking scientists here talking about testing, so you can catch us on YouTube. But yeah, share this with someone else so they get the content, and definitely check out those summits and get some training. You might even see me there, folks listening here. So this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.